Dystopia warning. Obviously, there's always need for a dystopia warning, isn't there? This is just me thinking out loud, really, because I watched the Blair Brown documentary again because I'm a nerd. And it's got me thinking a lot about the attitudes that people have towards Labour now, and the kind of attitudes that people had towards Labour when they tried to change tack and move more towards, I guess, the centre with New Labour. Now, the centre ground is not the space that I inhabit, actually. If I had it my way, I'd overthrow capitalism. Contrary to the raft of incels that, you know, are slouched in their mum's spare rooms with pot noodles strewn down their fronts, leaking nudes on 4chan, trying to tell me that I'm a centrist, because I don't do or say precisely what they want me to. Soft boys are going to soft boy, aren't they? I digress. Historically, most parties, the most successful parties, have won elections from the centre, because that's an area that kind of has policies that appeal to enough people, is enough of a compromise for people to get on board with. Although, in terms of vote share, if we weren't under a deeply unequal and undemocratic voting system like first past the post, progressive parties would get elected, because the biggest sections in terms of vote share are progressive parties and people that don't vote. That's why we need to vote tactically in the next general election, to yeet the Tories directly off a fucking pier. And then we go through the channels to lobby, put pressure on Labour to give us what we want, which is a representative voting system in which all of our votes count equally. A form of PR, if you will. Anyway, back to the documentary. Now, as much as I really respected John Smith as a politician, Gordon Brown's mentor, I don't think that if he had been leading the Labour Party that we would have won those elections. Labour needed to change from a party of protest into a party that could show a broad section of society beyond just the left that it could run the country properly, it could be trusted. And it was a long, hard slog for Labour to achieve that. Now, if you look at the situation we're in now, I'm not saying that this version of Labour is particularly bold or progressive, I would prefer it to be more so. But it's a change from what it was, which wasn't working. The previous leader of the opposition had 2 shots at it, it didn't work. If you look at the 80s and the 90s, right? After Thatcher had already done what we all knew she was going to do and finished her tirade of pure evil, closing down the mines, Labour was still operating as a protest party. They were seen as the loony left. The Tory smears stuck, so they had to regroup. Now, the old brass didn't want to regroup. Blair and Brown, they did, even though Brown was a little bit more traditional. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that red Tory jibes are lazy. Labour's trying to position itself as a party that can be trusted, and I think that considering the climate that we're operating under, they've done a pretty good job to turn it around in the time frame that they have. Not saying that I on any level agree with every decision that's made by the leadership of Labour, far from it. I'm saying they've not done a bad job to remain for the best part of a year, way beyond the Tories in the polls. Obviously, it helps that the Tories are going fully batshit, evidently. But we have to be practical, and we have to take into consideration that the way that you win an election is by appealing to people beyond your own people. Preaching to the choir doesn't cut it. You have to convince a broad swathe of society in order to get that ball over the line. Sometimes Labour's got that balance right, sometimes they've got it wrong. But they're in opposition, you know, facing up against a government that have created a post-truth state, that have run the country into the ground, wasting hundreds of millions of pounds of our money on baseless hate rhetoric, that has all the media on its side and most of the broadcasters. A government devoid of talent, of skill, that is using the Trump playbook and trying to incite riots on Remembrance Day. And the same people opposing Labour now are the same people that opposed Labour back when they tried to change last time. People would rather fight for pie-in-the-sky hypothesis and unachievable aims than what is practically and logically achievable. If we fail to use the systems that we have in place to our advantage, we're going to get another term of BNP. We're going to get the Farage Tories. Do you think they're going to get any better? The thing that enrages me the most about it is this is all based on hypothesis. People go, oh, but Starmer's going to be worse, he's going to be Tory, blah, blah, blah. What? Not one policy from Labour is remotely conservative. People react and don't think. And do you know what you're doing when you do that? You're helping the very people that are ruining your fucking life. Tories sit there and go, oh, brilliant, like they're kicking off at each other again. Meanwhile, we're like, you know, legging it out the door with bags of swag, you know. And also, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater because there's like massively progressive MPs in Labour, like, you know, Clive Lewis. If we don't win this election, we are fucked. You do realise that, don't you? Naysayers in the comment sections saying, oh, I'm going to vote Green. Yeah, that's a good idea, isn't it? Let's vote for the person that's got no fucking hope of returning an MP, thereby helping the Tories get their majority. Great idea. Yeah.